Welcome to the Roy English Podcast, your favorite place to boost your English communication skills.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lily, and I'm so excited for today's episode, Roy. What are we learning about?
Well, Lily, today we're tackling a very common challenge for English learners: how to disagree politely and express different opinions. Tired of just saying no or I don't agree?
Oh, yes. Sometimes I feel like I sound too direct or even a bit rude when I just say no. I really need some new phrases.
Exactly. Mastering these nuanced phrases will make your English sound more natural, sophisticated, and confident. Whether you're in a professional meeting, an academic discussion, or just chatting with friends, these words will help you express yourself with precision and grace. You can find today's vocabulary list in the video description below.
That sounds fantastic. I'm ready to learn how to disagree like a native speaker. Let's get started.
I see your point, but this is a great way to show you understand someone's idea, even if you don't agree with it. It's polite because you acknowledge their view first.
So it's like saying, I get what you're saying, but here's my idea.
Exactly. Let's look at our first example. I see your point, but I think we should consider other options as well. Here, you're not just dismissing their idea, you're suggesting alternatives.
Ah, I see. It opens the door for more discussion instead of just shutting it down.
Right. Our second example is, you've explained it well and I see your point, but I still believe the old method is more efficient for our team. This shows even more appreciation for their explanation before stating your different opinion.
That's super useful for work meetings. It sounds much softer than your method is bad.
Definitely. And for our third example, I see your point about saving money, but sacrificing quality might hurt us in the long run. This shows how you can agree with one part of their argument, saving money, but disagree with the potential consequences.
It's like saying, I agree with part of it, but not the whole picture. I really like how polite and clear it is.
Next up, we have I beg to differ. This phrase is a more formal and very polite way to say I disagree.
It sounds very elegant. Is it something I would use with friends?
Probably not with close friends in a casual chat, as it's a bit formal, but it's perfect for professional settings or when you want to be very respectful. For instance, you say the project is impossible, but I beg to differ. I believe we can find a solution.
So it's a strong disagreement, but said very gently.
Precisely. Our second example shows that too. My colleague stated that the new policy will solve everything, but I beg to differ on that point. Here you are challenging a statement directly but politely.
It's like saying, I hear what you said, but my opinion is completely opposite.
Exactly. And for our last one, I beg to differ with your assessment. The data suggests a different conclusion. This shows you have evidence to support your differing opinion.
I can definitely use I beg to differ in a formal presentation or a debate. It adds a touch of sophistication to my disagreement.
Moving on to with all due respect. This phrase is used to express disagreement very politely, especially when you are disagreeing with someone who is your senior or has authority, or when the disagreement is quite strong.
So it signals that you still respect the person, even if you don't agree with their opinion?
That's it. Take our first example. With all due respect, sir, I don't think that's the most effective approach. You are addressing someone with authority, so this phrase softens the disagreement.
That's super helpful in a professional setting. It really shows humility, even when you have a different view.
Yes, our second sentence shows that too. I understand your decision, but with all due respect, I believe we should reevaluate the budget. You are still challenging a decision, but with politeness.
So it's like saying, I know you made a decision, but please hear me out with my different opinion.
Precisely. And for the third example, with all due respect, Lily, I think your idea might be too expensive for our current resources.
I used your name there to show it can be used directly to a colleague or friend, but it still maintains a formal, respectful distance.
I get it. It's good for sensitive topics too, not just disagreeing with a boss. I'll definitely keep "with all due respect" in mind for those trickier conversations.
Now let's talk about I see things differently. This is a softer, less direct way to express disagreement. It emphasizes that it's just your personal perspective that's different.
Oh, this sounds very gentle. Is it good for everyday conversations?
Absolutely. It's less confrontational. For example, you believe the new plan is perfect, but I see things differently. There are a few risks. You're not saying their plan is bad, just that your view includes some risks.
So it's about my personal angle, not directly criticizing someone else's idea.
Exactly. Another example. Some people think online learning is better, but I see things differently. Face-to-face interaction is very important. Here, you're sharing your personal belief without making a universal statement.
That's a very polite way to express a personal opinion that contrasts with others.
Yes. And finally, when it comes to priorities for the next quarter, I see things differently than the sales team. This shows different departments or groups might have different perspectives, which is normal.
This phrase is great for when you want to express a different view without causing any tension. I love "I see things differently."
Our next phrase is "not necessarily." This is used to say that something might not be true in all cases or that a conclusion drawn isn't certain.
So it challenges an assumption or a generalization?
Precisely. Our first example is, you think that if it's expensive, it must be good. Not necessarily. You're saying that's not always the case.
That's a common misconception. This phrase is very direct but still polite.
It is. Here's another one. Just because they're quiet doesn't mean they're shy. Not necessarily. This helps break down stereotypes or quick judgments.
So it prevents people from jumping to conclusions. I can see myself using this often.
And for our final example, he said the deadline is tomorrow, but that's not necessarily true. I heard it was next week. Here you're questioning the accuracy of a statement.
It's good for clarifying information and expressing doubt politely. Not necessarily is a simple but powerful phrase.
Our next phrase is "on the contrary." This is used to state that the opposite of what has been said is true, often quite strongly.
So it's a stronger disagreement than just "not necessarily"?
Yes, much stronger. It means the opposite is true. For example, you think I'm upset? On the contrary, I'm quite happy about the outcome. Here, you are directly correcting a false assumption about your feelings.
That's a very clear way to correct someone. It emphasizes the complete opposite.
Exactly. Here's another example. Many people assume that city life is stressful. On the contrary, I find it very exciting and full of opportunities. You're presenting your experience as the exact opposite of the common belief.
It's a great way to present a counter-argument with confidence.
Indeed. And finally, some might say that limiting screen time is boring for kids. On the contrary, it encourages them to be more creative. This shows how you can flip a negative idea into a positive one.
On the contrary is perfect for when I want to make a firm point and completely reverse an idea. I love it.
Our seventh phrase is, "I'm not so sure about that." This expresses doubt or polite disagreement without being too direct or confrontational.
So it's a softer way of saying, "I don't think so."
Yes, it hints at disagreement. For instance, she said the new software will solve all our problems, but I'm not so sure about that. You're expressing skepticism without saying the software is bad.
It's good for when you don't want to directly challenge someone, but you have reservations.
Exactly. Here's another one. You think everyone will agree with your proposal? I'm not so sure about that. Some might have concerns.
You're gently pointing out potential issues.
It's like saying, I have a feeling things might not go exactly as you expect.
That's a good way to put it. And finally, the weather forecast says it's going to be sunny all day. But looking at these clouds, I'm not so sure about that. This shows it can be used in everyday observations too.
This phrase is really useful for expressing a mild doubt or a gentle warning without sounding negative. I'm not so sure about that is definitely going into my vocabulary.
And for our last phrase today, that's a valid point, however. This is an excellent way to agree with part of someone's argument, then introduce your own different point or counterargument using however.
So it starts with agreement and then transitions to a different perspective?
Exactly. It shows you've listened and understood. For example, that's a valid point. However, we also need to consider the long-term costs. You're acknowledging their point about, say, short-term gain, but bringing up another important factor.
That's very balanced. It sounds very reasonable and open to discussion.
It does. Our second example, you're right that we need to finish quickly. That's a valid point. However, rushing could lead to mistakes. Here, you explicitly start with agreement. You're right, then add, that's a valid point, before your counterpoint.
So it's good for when someone has a good point, but it's not the whole story.
You got it. And our final example, that's a valid point. Increasing sales is important. However, customer satisfaction should be our top priority. This shows how to prioritize different valid points.
This phrase is fantastic for collaborative environments where you want to build on ideas, not just dismiss them. That's a valid point, however, is a true gem.
And that brings us to the end of another enlightening episode of the Roy English Podcast.
Wow, Roy, I feel so much more confident now about expressing my disagreements and different opinions politely and effectively. No more just saying no.
That's the goal, Lily. We've learned phrases like, I see your point, but I beg to differ, with all due respect, I see things differently, not necessarily, on the contrary, I'm not so sure about that, and that's a valid point, however.
These phrases are truly essential for sounding like a native speaker and communicating with precision and grace. I'm going to start practicing them right away.
Excellent idea. The best way to master them is to start using them in your conversations. Don't be afraid to try them out.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned a lot. See you next time.
Bye for now and keep practicing your English.
Bye.